Question 1. A project to build a new satellite is underway, and its requirements are well defined and stable. There is a high degree of technical complexity, and the project needs to follow a strict sequential development process with detailed upfront planning. Which development approach is most appropriate for this project? A. Iterative. B. Incremental. C. Adaptive, Agile. D. Predictive, waterfall. Answer: D. Predictive, waterfall. The most appropriate development approach for a project with stable requirements, high technical complexity, and a need for strict sequential development with detailed upfront planning is predictive, often known as waterfall. Predictive life cycles focus on defining the project scope, schedule, and cost early in the project life cycle, and then managing the project to that baseline. This approach minimizes changes and is ideal for projects where requirements are well understood and unlikely to change significantly, such as building a satellite or a bridge. Understanding when requirements are stable versus evolving is key to choosing the right life cycle. Question 2. A project manager is leading a software development project where the scope is not fully clear at the beginning, and stakeholder feedback is crucial for shaping the final product. The team aims to deliver valuable features frequently to the users. Which project life cycle characteristic best describes this scenario? A. Continuous delivery. B. Rolling wave planning. C. Progressive elaboration. D. Fixed scope and detailed upfront planning. Answer: C. Progressive elaboration. The scenario described, where the scope is not fully clear initially and is refined over time with stakeholder feedback and frequent feature delivery, is best characterized by progressive elaboration. This concept involves continuously improving and detailing a plan as more information and accurate estimates become available. It is common in adaptive and iterative life cycles, allowing for flexibility and refinement as the project progresses, rather than having a fixed, detailed plan from the start. For example, in an Agile project, initial requirements might be high-level epics, progressively elaborated into user stories during sprint planning. Embracing progressive elaboration helps manage uncertainty effectively. Question 3. During a project's early stages, a project manager needs to decide on the best development approach. The project involves developing a new mobile game, and the market is highly competitive, requiring rapid releases and quick adaptation to user feedback. Which factor is most influential in selecting an adaptive approach? A. High project budget. B. Stable and defined requirements. C. High uncertainty and evolving requirements. D. Experienced project management team. Answer: C. High uncertainty and evolving requirements. The most influential factor in selecting an adaptive approach for a project like a new mobile game is high uncertainty and evolving requirements. Adaptive life cycles, such as Agile, are designed to thrive in environments where requirements are not fully known upfront and are expected to change frequently, allowing for continuous feedback and adjustment. In contrast, stable and defined requirements would typically favor a predictive approach. For instance, a game development team might release a minimum viable product, gather player feedback, and then adapt the game's features based on what users truly want, demonstrating agility. Always align your development approach with the level of clarity and stability of your project's requirements. Question 4. A project team is using an Agile approach and has delivered a working increment of software to stakeholders at the end of a 2-week sprint. This increment includes several new features that are ready for immediate use by end users. Which concept does this exemplify? A. Iterative development. B. Incremental delivery. C. Predictive planning. D. Rolling wave planning. Answer: B. Incremental delivery. The scenario describes incremental delivery, where usable parts of the product are delivered in short, frequent cycles, allowing stakeholders to use and provide feedback on completed features. While iterative development involves repeating activities to refine understanding, incremental delivery specifically focuses on providing working product components in small pieces. For example, a software team delivering a new login module and user profile screen that users can immediately interact with is an increment. This approach enhances value realization by getting useful functionality into the hands of users sooner. Question 5. A project is characterized by frequent changes in requirements and the need for early and continuous stakeholder involvement to refine the product. Which life cycle approach combines aspects of both iterative and incremental characteristics? A. Predictive. B. Waterfall. C. Adaptive, Agile. D. Plan-driven. Answer: C. Adaptive, Agile. The adaptive, agile, life cycle approach combines both iterative and incremental characteristics to manage projects with frequent changes and continuous stakeholder involvement. It is iterative because it refines solutions through cycles of repetition and feedback, and it is incremental because it builds the product in small, usable pieces. This allows for flexibility and adaptation throughout the project's duration, enabling teams to respond quickly to evolving requirements and deliver value frequently. For example, a Scrum team delivers a potentially shippable increment at the end of each sprint, refining it through feedback from previous sprints. Remember that Agile thrives on embracing change and delivering value in small, frequent steps. Question 6. A project manager is evaluating different development approaches for a complex product with some known, stable requirements, but also many unknown elements that will only become clear as development progresses. The client wants to see early functionality but also needs a detailed long-term roadmap. Which approach would be most suitable? A. Predictive. B. Pure Agile. C. Hybrid. D. Linear. Answer: C. Hybrid. For a project with a mix of stable and evolving requirements, where some early functionality is desired alongside a long-term roadmap, a hybrid approach is most suitable. A hybrid life cycle combines elements of both predictive and adaptive approaches, allowing the project manager to tailor the development strategy to different parts of the project or different phases. For instance, a project might use a predictive approach for hardware components with stable designs, while using an agile approach for software interfaces that require more flexibility. This flexibility helps in optimizing how various project components are managed. Question 7. The project team is tasked with developing a highly innovative product where the exact solution is uncertain and requires continuous experimentation and feedback loops to arrive at the final design. Which project life cycle is best suited for this situation? A. Predictive. B. Waterfall. C. Iterative. D. Sequential. Answer: C. Iterative. For highly innovative products with uncertain solutions requiring continuous experimentation and feedback loops, an iterative project life cycle is best suited. In an iterative approach, work is repeated in cycles, allowing the team to refine and improve the product or solution based on lessons learned from previous iterations. This focus on learning and refinement is crucial when the end solution is not fully clear at the outset. For example, a product design team might build multiple prototypes, testing each one and using feedback to improve the next version until the optimal design is achieved. Iterative life cycles are all about learning and refining through repetition. Question 8. A project to upgrade a critical infrastructure system has strict regulatory compliance requirements and a fixed deadline. The scope is largely stable, and any changes must undergo formal approval processes. Which development approach aligns best with these characteristics? A. Agile. B. Adaptive. C. Predictive. D. Iterative. Answer: C. Predictive. The characteristics of strict regulatory compliance, a fixed deadline, and largely stable scope, along with formal change approval processes, align best with a predictive development approach. Predictive life cycles, also known as waterfall, emphasize detailed upfront planning and sequential execution, which is well suited for projects where control, compliance, and stability are paramount. For example, in upgrading a critical infrastructure like a power grid, every step must be meticulously planned and documented before execution due to the high risks involved. Choosing Predictive ensures a structured and controlled progression. Question 9. A product owner consistently provides feedback and reprioritizes the backlog items at the end of each sprint based on market changes and user input. This continuous adaptation of the project's direction exemplifies which characteristic of Agile lifecycles? A. Fixed scope. B. Response to change over following a plan. C. Comprehensive documentation. D. Sequential phase completion. Answer: B. Response to change over following a plan. The product owner's continuous feedback and reprioritization of backlog items, coupled with adaptation to market changes and user input, exemplify the Agile principle of response to change over following a plan. Agile lifecycles prioritize flexibility and the ability to adapt to new information and evolving requirements, rather than strictly adhering to a predefined, detailed plan. For instance, if user testing reveals a feature is not as useful as expected, an Agile team can quickly pivot and develop a more desired alternative, directly reflecting this principle. Remember that agility means embracing necessary changes to deliver maximum value. Question 10. A project aims to deliver a new software product in a series of functional releases, with each release building upon the previous one by adding more features. The stakeholders receive a working version of the software every few weeks. This approach is known as A. Iterative development. B. Incremental delivery. C. Predictive development. D. Rolling wave planning. Answer: B. Incremental delivery. The described approach, where a new software product is delivered in a series of functional releases with each adding more features, and stakeholders receive working versions frequently, is known as incremental delivery. Incremental means producing usable product components or features in small, additive chunks. This allows for early value realization and continuous feedback, as users interact with the developing product over time. For example, releasing a basic e-commerce website with essential shopping cart functionality, then adding user reviews and wish lists in subsequent releases, demonstrates incremental delivery. Focus on delivering working pieces of value frequently. Question 11. A project manager is working on a research and development project where the final product specifications are highly uncertain and subject to change based on testing and new discoveries. The project team needs to frequently test prototypes and incorporate learnings. Which development approach is most appropriate? A. Predictive. B. Waterfall. C. Iterative. D. Linear. Answer: C. Iterative. The most appropriate development approach for a research and development project with highly uncertain final product specifications, frequent testing of prototypes, and incorporation of learnings is iterative. An iterative approach focuses on repeating cycles of planning, execution, and review to progressively refine the solution and reduce uncertainty. This allows teams to learn from each cycle and adapt the product design. For example, a team developing a new drug might go through several testing phases with modified formulas, using the results of each to inform the next iteration. Iterative development is ideal when the solution evolves through experimentation. Question 12. A project team is defining the overall project life cycle. They decide to use a phased approach where each phase, e.g., design, build, test, must be completed and approved before the next phase begins. What type of life cycle is this? A. Agile. B. Adaptive. C. Predictive. D. Iterative. Answer: C. Predictive. A phased approach where each phase must be completed and approved before the next begins describes a predictive life cycle. In predictive, or waterfall, approaches, the project progresses through distinct sequential phases with a clear start and end for each, emphasizing detailed planning up front and minimizing changes once a phase is approved. This methodology is best suited for projects where requirements are well understood and stable from the outset. For example, constructing a building typically follows a predictive approach, moving from foundation to framing, then to interior finishing in a defined sequence. This sequential flow offers strong control and reduces rework if requirements are fixed. Question 13. A project team is delivering a new online learning platform. They plan to release a basic version with core features, e.g., user profiles, course catalog, in the first quarter, then add advanced features, e.g., interactive quizzes, video conferencing, in subsequent quarters. This demonstrates a focus on A. Big bang release. B. Single-phase delivery. C. Incremental value delivery. D. All-at-once development. Answer: C. Incremental value delivery. The project's plan to release a basic version first and then add advanced features in subsequent quarters demonstrates a focus on incremental value delivery. This approach involves delivering value to stakeholders in small, usable increments over time, rather than waiting until the entire product is complete. This allows users to benefit from core functionality sooner and provides opportunities for feedback. For example, a streaming service might launch with basic movie playback, then later add features like personalized recommendations or offline downloads. Prioritizing incremental delivery helps ensure that business value is realized early and continuously. Question 14. Which of the following best describes the concept of rolling wave planning in project management? A. Planning all project activities in detail at the beginning of the project. B. Planning in detail only for the near term, while planning at a higher level for the more distant future. C. Completing one phase entirely before starting any planning for the next phase. D. Continuously replanning the entire project based on daily feedback. Answer: B. Planning in detail only for the near term, while planning at a higher level for the more distant future. Rolling wave planning is a progressive elaboration technique where planning is conducted in detail only for the near-term work that is expected to be completed soon, while future work is planned at a higher, less detailed level. As the project progresses and more information becomes available, the near-term plans are progressively elaborated, and the distant plans become more detailed. This approach is particularly useful in projects with evolving requirements or high uncertainty. For example, a construction project might have detailed plans for the foundation work, while plans for the interior finishing are still high-level, becoming more detailed as the project moves forward. This flexible planning allows for adaptation without constant replanning of the entire project. Question 15. A project manager is faced with a project where technology is rapidly evolving, and stakeholders are unsure of their exact requirements. The project team is highly collaborative and prefers self-organization. Which development approach would be most effective? A. Predictive. B. Waterfall. C. Adaptive. D. Linear. Answer: C. Adaptive. For a project characterized by rapidly evolving technology, uncertain stakeholder requirements, and a collaborative, self-organizing team, an adaptive development approach is most effective. Adaptive lifecycles, synonymous with Agile, embrace change, leverage continuous feedback loops, and empower teams to self-organize and adjust their plans frequently. This allows them to deliver value incrementally and respond quickly to new information. For instance, a mobile app development team might use short sprints to build features, regularly showing progress to stakeholders and incorporating their feedback to refine the product. Always consider adaptive methods when high uncertainty and rapid change are present. Question 16. A new product development project has very clearly defined requirements that are unlikely to change. The project has a low risk tolerance for rework, and the team needs to follow a stringent documentation process. Which lifecycle characteristic is most emphasized here? A. Embracing change. B. Iterative development. C. Detailed upfront planning. D. Continuous delivery. Answer: C. Detailed upfront planning. The emphasis on very clearly defined requirements, low risk tolerance for rework, and stringent documentation processes strongly points to a focus on detailed upfront planning. This characteristic is central to predictive life cycles, where comprehensive planning occurs at the beginning of the project, aiming to minimize changes and ensure a structured, controlled execution. For example, in the aerospace industry, every component design must be meticulously planned and documented before manufacturing begins to ensure safety and compliance. When requirements are stable and risks of change are high, thorough upfront planning is paramount. Question 17. The project team is adopting a continuous integration practice, where code changes are merged into a central repository frequently, and automated tests are run to detect integration errors early. This practice is most common in which type of development approach? A. Predictive. B. Waterfall. C. Agile/adaptive. D. Phased. Answer: C. Agile/adaptive. The practice of continuous integration, where code changes are frequently merged and automated tests are run to detect errors early, is most common and highly beneficial in agile or adaptive development approaches. Agile methodologies emphasize frequent small releases and continuous feedback, making practices like continuous integration essential for maintaining code quality and ensuring that the product remains in a working state. For example, a software development team might integrate their code several times a day, running automated unit and integration tests to catch issues immediately. This approach helps reduce the risk of late-stage integration problems common in less frequent integration models. Question 18. A project team is working on a new type of battery where the feasibility of the technology is uncertain. They plan to conduct several cycles of research, prototype building, and testing, refining the design based on each cycle's results. What concept is the team primarily applying? A. Predictive scheduling. B. Iterative development. C. Incremental delivery. D. Fixed scope management. Answer: B. Iterative development. The teams plan to conduct several cycles of research, prototype building, and testing, refining the design based on each cycle's results, is primarily applying iterative development. Iterative approaches focus on repeating activities in cycles to progressively refine a product or solution, especially when the final solution is uncertain or requires significant experimentation. This allows for continuous learning and adaptation. For instance, in developing a new battery, the team might build and test several prototypes, learning from the performance of each to improve the design for the next iteration. Iterative cycles are crucial for innovation and problem-solving in uncertain environments. Question 19. A project manager is determining the best way to develop a new compliance reporting system. The regulatory requirements are fixed and well documented, but the user interface preferences are still somewhat fluid and will benefit from user feedback. Which development approach would be a practical choice? A. Pure predictive. B. Pure agile. C. Hybrid. D. Adaptive. Answer: C. Hybrid. For developing a new compliance reporting system with fixed regulatory requirements but fluid user interface preferences that benefit from feedback, a hybrid approach would be a practical choice. A hybrid approach combines elements of both predictive, for the stable, fixed regulatory aspects, and adaptive, for the evolving UI design through user feedback, lifecycles. This allows the project to leverage the strengths of each methodology where they are most appropriate. For example, the back-end data processing and compliance logic might be developed predictively, while the front-end user experience is developed iteratively with user stories and frequent demos. This tailored approach optimizes both stability and flexibility. Question 20. In an Agile project, the team aims to deliver a minimum viable product (MVP). What is the primary purpose of an MVP? A. To deliver all planned features at once. B. To create a product with just enough features to satisfy early adopters and provide feedback for future product development. C. To finalize all requirements before starting any development. D. To eliminate the need for future iterations. Answer: B. To create a product with just enough features to satisfy early adopters and provide feedback for future product development. The primary purpose of a minimum viable product, MVP, in an Agile project is to create a product with just enough features to satisfy early adopters, allowing the team to gather validated learning and feedback for future product development. An MVP is not the complete product but rather the smallest possible version that can be released to the market to learn from real user interactions. For example, a new social media app might launch with only profile creation and a simple post feed as its MVP, instead of waiting to develop direct messaging, groups, and advanced search features. Delivering an MVP helps validate assumptions and guide subsequent development based on actual user needs. Question 21. A project's stakeholders require a detailed, complete plan upfront, including all scope, schedule, and cost estimates, and they prefer to receive the final product only after all development is complete. Which project life cycle is most aligned with these stakeholder preferences? A. Iterative. B. Incremental. C. Adaptive. D. Predictive. Answer: D. Predictive. The stakeholder preferences for a detailed, complete plan upfront, including all scope, schedule, and cost estimates, and receiving the final product only after all development is complete are most aligned with a predictive project life cycle. Predictive approaches, often called waterfall, emphasize thorough upfront planning and sequential execution, with deliverables typically provided at the end of the project. This contrasts with agile or adaptive methods that favor frequent, incremental deliveries. For example, building a new bridge often follows a predictive lifecycle, as stakeholders expect a fully functional bridge at the end, based on an agreed-upon detailed design. When stability and upfront certainty are paramount, predictive is the go-to. Question 22. A project is using an adaptive approach. At the end of each iteration, the team reviews the completed work with stakeholders and gathers feedback to refine the product backlog for the next iteration. This practice is most directly contributing to A. Scope creep prevention. B. Formal change control. C. Progressive elaboration and adaptation. D. Detailed upfront planning. Answer: C. Progressive elaboration and adaptation. When a project team using an adaptive approach reviews completed work with stakeholders at the end of each iteration and gathers feedback to refine the product backlog, this practice most directly contributes to progressive elaboration and adaptation. This continuous feedback loop allows the project team to refine the product details and adapt to changing requirements or new insights throughout the project lifecycle. For example, in a software project, stakeholders might see a working feature, realize they need a slight modification, and that feedback directly influences the priority and details of tasks in the next sprint, embodying progressive elaboration and adaptation. Always use feedback loops to refine your understanding and adjust your path. Question 23. The project manager is considering the frequency of delivery for a new consumer electronics device. The market demands rapid innovation and frequent updates to stay competitive. Which delivery characteristic is prioritized in this scenario? A. Single large delivery. B. Less frequent delivery. C. Early and frequent delivery. D. Delivery after all features are complete. Answer: C. Early and frequent delivery. In a market demanding rapid innovation and frequent updates for a new consumer electronics device, the prioritized delivery characteristic is early and frequent delivery. This aligns with Agile principles, where value is delivered in small, usable increments to the market quickly, allowing for rapid feedback and adaptation to stay competitive. For example, A smartphone manufacturer might release regular software updates with new features and improvements rather than waiting for a major annual release. Embracing early and frequent delivery helps maintain competitiveness and customer satisfaction in dynamic markets. Question 24. A project team is developing a complex scientific instrument. While the overall goal is clear, the technical path to achieve it is uncertain and requires significant research and experimentation. The team plans to build several prototypes and learn from each one. This approach is best described as A. Incremental, B. Predictive, C. Iterative, D. Hybrid. Answer: C. Iterative. For a project developing a complex scientific instrument where the technical path is uncertain and requires significant research, experimentation, and building multiple prototypes to learn from, an iterative approach is best described. Iterative development focuses on cycles of development and refinement, where each cycle builds upon the learning from the previous one, allowing the team to progressively reduce uncertainty and improve the solution. For instance, a team building a new telescope might create and test several lens designs, using the performance data from each to inform the next iteration until optimal optical performance is achieved. Remember, iterative is about learning and refining through repeated cycles. Question 25. A project is focused on creating a new enterprise resource planning (ERP) system. The core financial modules have fixed, non-negotiable requirements, but the human resources and CRM modules have evolving user needs. What is the most appropriate development approach for this project? A. Predictive, B. Adaptive, C. Hybrid, D. Iterative. Answer: C. Hybrid. The most appropriate development approach for an ERP system with fixed, non-negotiable requirements for core financial modules and evolving user needs for human resources and CRM modules is a hybrid approach. A hybrid life cycle combines elements of both predictive, for the stable financial modules, and adaptive, for the flexible HR and CRM modules, methodologies. This allows the project manager to tailor the approach to different components of the project based on their specific characteristics, optimizing both control and flexibility. For instance, the financial module might follow a strict waterfall approach, while the HR module is developed using Agile sprints, allowing for continuous user feedback. A hybrid approach provides the flexibility to manage diverse project parts effectively.